Hello everybody, I'm Quencie Thomas and I'd like to welcome you to the new eCourse about interviewing the stars you love. I'm so happy that you signed up, you purchased it, and we're going to take a journey together. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about your instructor. That would be me. In college, back at Clark Atlanta University, my friend Chris had a show called Premiere TV, and he really wanted me to interview for him, and I just could not understand. I was an intern at Sony Music, and I'm like, why do you want me to interview? For some reason, he just really persuaded me to do my very first interview with Debrat. I mean, he stayed on the phone with me for an entire evening persuading me to do it because I wanted to be the female Diddy, and I wanted to find new artists and have them take that. That's what I wanted to do. So interviewing people, it wasn't even a thought. But Chris changed that. Once I finally said, okay, I'm going to do the interview, he had a camera person, he had somebody write my questions, and it was horrible.
Your favorite female rap artist, Debrat. She got a whole bunch of favorites. Now she gonna try to clean it up.
It was a hot mess. I mean, from everything, from, you know, the questions I asked her, the lighting, the location. The only thing that was good was that I did have a pleasant personality, and personality is something that you really can't teach somebody. And so that's what allowed us to get another interview, because when Chris saw the first interview, he was like, oh, no. So everything that I'm going to teach you today, I did not have back then. And we did another interview just because I was so bad.
What up, this Debrat, you know what I'm saying? Chilling with my homie Q.
But the great thing that I was good at was a personality, so I was able to go back and Debrat is my very first celebrity interview back in college. I went on to interview a few other people in Atlanta that Chris booked for the show. Increasingly, I got a little bit better, but this was 20 years ago, so I have a lot of experience that I cannot wait to share with you. It's your girl, Quencie. We are here with Salt. How has Gail made you?
Don't get me crying.
And we are here live at the SAG Awards. Leave a message. What's the biggest lesson motherhood has taught you?
To be honest.
Studio
I'm the Q in the studio.
All right, cutie. It's a different world.
Thanks for coming. Thank you for being letting me know you.
It's a mental view of shit over here.
This is probably the best interview I've ever done.
You're such a great interviewer, my goodness.
This is honestly the best interview I've had in months.
Once I got a few interviews underneath my belt, I felt I was more confident and good to go. I then decided to go to grad school at the University of Illinois in Springfield, which is my hometown. And once I was there to get my master's in communications, I also decided to create my own show called Studio Q. Q standing for Quencie. You know, a lot of people don't, they're like, who is Studio Q? Me, it's Quencie. So I created the show as a way to interview the stars that I love. However, I'm in Springfield, so there's hardly any stars ever come into this small town in Illinois. But on the chances that a few came through, I was there with my camera. For instance, Kirk Franklin, he came to do a concert at the Illinois State Fair. I just bought one ticket. I took my little brother and the camera, went super early, and saw Kirk Franklin walking around, got his attention and asked him, hey, can I do an interview? He said yes, to my surprise. And I was prepared because I came with a camera. Once I got backstage, I saw an old friend who worked for the local ABC station, and I didn't even have to film myself. You know, I didn't even know how I was gonna do that anyway, but he took my camera, filmed me, and I had my interview with Kirk Franklin. It was amazing that even though I was in this small town where there's no influx of stars, I still was able to get a star on my show. Another time, Ricky Smiley came to Springfield, Illinois for one show at the Funny Bone. Bought a ticket, took my camera. After his set, went up to him and was like, oh, can I please have an interview? He was so exhausted, but he said yes. You know, a friend of mine filmed it, and there was my first interview with Ricky Smiley. I've never interviewed Kirk Franklin again. I've never interviewed Ricky Smiley again. So if I didn't seize those opportunities, I wouldn't even have an interview to talk about. Me being in Springfield, a small town, being on public access with the show, it enabled me to learn how to edit. It enabled me to learn how to produce. I interviewed hometown heroes. I got stores to sponsor me with clothing. Even in a small town, I did not let that stop me from getting the interviews that I wanted, getting the interviews with the stars. So here I am, a cable access channel, but I've interviewed Danny Glover. I've interviewed Kirk Franklin. I've interviewed Ricky Smiley. The point that I'm trying to make here is that you never know when there's an opportunity that you can make something happen. Just be ready. Had I not been ready, there's no way I'd have the interviews that I have. So we're going to get into all the things that are going to make you an excellent interviewer, not just to do an interview, but do it well. The goal of this eCourse is to make you completely independent, where you can get the interview with the star, conduct the interview with the star, and distribute it to a viable audience. I'm going to show you that you don't have to be Entertainment Tonight to be on the red carpet. You don't have to be Access Hollywood to get your one-on-one with your favorite star. I'm going to show you how to do this yourself. We're going to cover everything from the kind of camera to use, what kind of editing software will be perfect for you, how important lighting is, getting credentials for red carpets, big events. Going to show you the power of social media and how to use it to get interviews and to distribute your stuff in a way that may even give you some viral moments. You can do this yourself, that you create your own original content. You're going to book the star, you're going to film it, you're going to edit it, and you're going to put it out for the world to see. And I'm going to show you how to do that without any Hollywood connections. Okay, if you have Hollywood connections, great. This course will show you how to be better at interviewing. If you have no Hollywood connections, then this is just going to show you how to get in the game, how to make the game yours already. We're living in a whole new time, and you can do this, and I'm going to show you how. Well, we are at lesson 1, which is how to secure an interview. There are so many ways to secure an interview. You can send an email, you can find the publicist or the manager of the star that you want to interview. I went to a Rochelle Farrell concert and Sheila E. just happened to be there. So during a intermission from the concert, I walked up to Sheila E. to ask her for a picture, tell her I was a big fan, but also I used that moment to ask her for an interview. And she actually said yes. Okay. Now, you know, people could say yes all the time, but when it's time for the follow-up, they could go ghost or you never, hear from them again. But I followed up and Sheila E. kept her word. It was a podcast interview, but she kept her word. She said yes, and she did it. And it was all because I went up and asked her. I could have just been done at the picture and have a picture with Sheila E. and say, oh, I met Sheila E. But no, I used my fan moment, my fangirl moment, to get something that would be beneficial for me, which was an interview with her. And that interview was great. Thank you so much, Sheila E.
Thank you very much. And I do have to say that you asked great questions, and it's a pleasure to do this interview with you, and I look forward to seeing you at some of the shows.
That's like the biggest compliment that you could give me, because I know you do thousands of interviews.
I do, but you asked great questions, and just the way that they were asked and things that were said, it was good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Amen.
Amen. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks, Sheila E. You can be anywhere. You can be at the grocery store and see a star, especially living out here in Los Angeles. You just never know where you're going to see anybody. And don't be afraid. We don't mind asking people for selfies, but ask for an interview. And of course you can't do it right then, but sometimes you might be able to turn that Snapchat, that video, that Instagram on them right there, and they'll do it on the spot. You just never know. But if you do not ask, You're never going to find out. So going to events, seeing stars out, and not being afraid to walk up to them and ask for what you want is a big part of getting what you want. Another way is finding out events through social media. You might see a flyer about an event or something of that nature. There's always like how to reach out for media credentials. And media credentials are just something that says you can come and you can film and you can interview the stars on the red carpet. And they'll send you an email saying that you're approved. But you got to reach out. And there's always an email or a person or a PR person, an entity where you can reach out to ask for credentials. You know, just tell who you are, what you want, and hopefully you'll be approved. There's so much information out there now when people throw an event on who to get contact. You just got to put in a little research and find out. Send an email. You'd be surprised at what you might be approved for. Things that you wouldn't think that you would. I have gotten interviews by asking on social media. There's an actress called Brayley Evans, and I just simply reached out to her on Twitter. Could I do an interview with her? She DM'd me her publicist information and said, set it up. I think one of her exact words were, I'm never going to turn down free publicity. But who would have known that if I would have never, ever reached out? If you have a popular following on social media, you're at different events, people will reach out to you. If you have a successful blog and lots of readers, you'd be surprised who will tap you to invite you to a certain press junket of a new movie that's coming out, or have you cover the red carpet for their particular outlet just because they see how many followers you have and they want to engage those people for their product or their new film. If you just are doing something completely different but are successful at that, people will reach out to you. Just know if you're popular, they'll probably be knocking on your door, okay? So we've got so many different ways now that I've mentioned to secure an interview. Through email, through social media, through being at an event and just walking up and seeing a star and asking for the interview, for just being popular in your own, category of whatever you do, and people just tapping you for the job. They may reach out to you just because you're popular, just because your blog is popping. Now, I'm not saying that just because you reach out, it's going to be an automatic yes. No, but you got to continue reaching out and using all these varied ways to secure that interview. My main point is that you can do it yourself. You don't have to rely on anybody else to do this, to move your train forward. You can secure the interview. Every interview that I've done from 2012 until now is what I secured or what Tam, my best friend who has filmed all my interviews, secured. We did it ourselves. We had no Hollywood connections. We knew no publicists personally. But we reached out and we reached out and we reached out. And when I saw them out, I wasn't afraid to go up to people. And as a result, we found success. So you can too. You just have to be willing to reach out. You just have to be willing to send that email. You just got to be willing to research and find out who the people you need to contact. And you can do it. All of that information are in the bio of Instagram now. 10 years ago, that information probably would be almost impossible to find. But the internet has leveled the playing field, so you can reach out and secure your own interview. You don't have to wait for Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood. You don't have to wait for that. Another instance where I booked a huge dream come true interview was just about me having persistence and willing to throw myself out there when nobody asked for me. Nobody asked for me. I saw a advertisement for a show called Fanatic, and they were asking for people to send in tapes for, various stars. Not one of the stars they mentioned was Whitney Houston, okay? Not one. But I said, here's a show, here's an opportunity. Even though they haven't said or invited any fans to send a tape about Whitney, that's who I want to interview. So I'm sending a tape pitching me to be the #1 fan to interview Whitney Houston. The creators called me and told me that when I sent the tape, they had not booked Whitney at all, but they actually used my tape to help book Whitney for the Fanatic interview. So just imagine, they wasn't even advertising for Whitney. By me doing something, it created my own opportunity. And 4 or 5 months later, I'm sitting on MTV interviewing my childhood idol, Whitney Houston. So you have to create the lane that you want to roll in. And sometimes people are not going to ask you to do that. You're just going to have to put yourself out there. And great things can happen when you do that. So there's always a unique way to secure an interview, even when the path doesn't seem as clear as you would like it to be. Preparation can mean the difference between actually having an interview or just having some footage or actually having nothing. Just create you a checklist before you go to any interview. Do I got the camera? Do I have the mic? Do I have the tripod? It is very, very easy to forget just anything because you have so much to get together. So it's very easy when you're doing all this by yourself to get ahead of yourself, get to the venue and be missing something. I mean, one of the major things that we missed on our first NAACP, we covered the NAACP Theater Awards. And once we arrived at the venue, the one thing that we did not have was the camera. So we were there on time. We had the mic, but we had no camera. In that moment, the biggest thing that you need is a camera. So Tam had to drop me off, scurry across town to get the camera that we forgot. Once the red carpet started, Tam wasn't there. I still was like, we're not gonna lose this opportunity on the carpet. So with my iPhone only, I got in position on the red carpet. And when people would come to interview, I would turn my iPhone on to get voice recordings. So there's never a time when you can't make the most out of something, even when a mistake has been made. So I stood in that position. I put my iPhone out. I got sound clips. I did not act like I was in a panic, that there was no camera, that this was going to be over and this was a complete flop. No. I'm going to get something. I took pictures with my phone of different people on the carpet. Like I said, when one person was being interviewed, I put my phone right up to get sound bites until Tam made it back. And I don't know how she did it, but she made it back in the middle of traffic with the camera. And once she did, I got several more interviews. I just said right over here, raised my hand. She came right where I was, and we just proceeded as if that's the way it was supposed to go anyway. So you have to make the most of any situation, but preparation is key. Had we just said, we're gonna make a list that we're gonna go through before every interview, before leaving the house, we would have discovered the camera was right there. Camera check. We just got ourselves together, rushed out because we were trying not to be late and get there early, and left the most important thing. But I did not allow that to stop us from getting content on the red carpet. So even if you make mistakes because you haven't prepared properly, still try to recover in the process. There's always something you can do, always something that you can get while you are there. So preparation is so important. There was another event that we went to, Diva Simply Singing, and we got great interviews with Elle DeBarge, Sheryl Lee Ralph, so many different amazing celebrities. But guess what? We had absolutely no sound. But guess what? When I put B-roll together, I still use those clips. Nothing goes to waste, okay? Yes, that was a mistake of not learning the equipment better, or not even just going through a check-through list when you get to the venue. You have to go through all of that so you can get what you need. Another example of what preparation or lack of preparation can end up being, we went to interview Jennifer Lewis at her house. The first time we interviewed her, we were outside. So we had natural lighting, the sun was beaming. It was wonderful. There was no need for any lighting. But this time we did it inside. And fortunately, we had a wonderful light, but we forgot the stand for the light. So the light was on the ground and it was still somewhat shadowy. We're not experts, but we want to get the best of everything that we can at the time we're doing it. And we know that having a stand with the light would have made a better picture. But we didn't have it, but we weren't going to not do the interview because we forgot something. But had we went through that checklist, we would have discovered we have the light, but where's the stand? So I cannot urge you enough. It may just seem like, rudimentary that you just write down a list, very grammar school-like, but it's important because once you get moving and worried about your hair, your makeup, your questions, your research, where it's at, what time you gotta be there, what you gotta ask, it is very easy to forget a light stand. We were on the red carpet for Diva Simply Singing. I mean, it's an annual event, so we went different times. But this particular time, last year, we had a light for our camera. And as the day went down, the person next to me had no light. So they were interviewing these people, but I know that their video was just going to be trash because they didn't have any light. I mean, I think during one of their interviews, I actually turned our light on them so that they could get a good interview, but I'm not going to do that for every interview for somebody else. I'm going to do that for myself. So it's important to be prepared with a light because all the time you're not going to be outside or it could get dark. And once we got that light for our red carpet interviews, the compliments just rushed in. People just was drawn to the light. They just loved it.
I go right to that light like a moth to a flame. Girl. That's my favorite light ever. Oh, yeah. I wish I could just have that follow me around all day long.
Well, everybody here is like so floored just to be around your light. Oh, really? Yeah, they're like, oh my God, I get to work with Taraji.
You're helping me with the lights.
I love this light, y'all.
She looks
y'all got some money now. Look, if y'all can see what I see, and I've been knowing them forever, is all I got to say. That's all I got to say. And it's all love, I swear. I love these girls.
They knew that they were going to look better because we had a light, and we could actually see who we were filming because we had a light. So preparation is so key, having all the equipment, but also knowing how to use it. Because if you don't make yourself familiar with stuff, when you're on the red carpet or a crucial moment on a one-on-one and you don't know what button to push, it's just gonna mess everything up and it's gonna let everybody know how unprofessional you are. The last thing you want anybody to feel is that you don't have your stuff together. Now, when it comes to interviewing celebrities, like I'm old school with the note cards. So I do all my interviews, type up all my questions, then I write them out individually. So I did this for my Jennifer Lewis interview where we also forgot the light stand. And do you know, once we got to her house, I could not find one note card whatsoever. Like, it's like they just completely disappeared. I don't want to go into any interview without preparation and my questions, but I especially don't want to go into an interview with Jennifer Lewis without my questions, because she is a strong personality and I could just not say anything and she could do a one-woman show because she's just that talented, that funny, that entertaining. But I'm not going there for a one-woman show. I'm going in there for an interview that I'm doing with her. So the fact that I lost all my questions, you'd think I would have been just asked out. But because I put all of those questions in the notes on my phone, I saved myself. I don't like, necessarily holding the phone in the interview, but I was just so thankful that I prepared if something was to happen to these note cards that I would still have my questions. And I did, and I'm so thankful. So preparation can just save you. Researching. Now, this lesson right here is something that you just gotta get if you want to be a great interviewer of any kind. I don't care who's on the other side of you. Know more about them than they would ever give you credit for. When I go to interview a celebrity, I feel like it's the second time that I'm meeting them because I meet them first in the research. Sometimes I feel like I know more about them than they know about themselves. I've done so much research on them. It's really great because you're able to ask them different questions. One of the things that you're going to find out once you start doing interviews is how many people ask the same questions. But if you do your research and you're able to ask some type of nuanced question that connects them to their life or connects them to something else, you will stand out. You will make yourself unique and memorable. They will remember you because like I said, 90% of the people are asking the same questions over and over and over again. But if you do your research, you will stand out. And the interviewee, the celebrity, the star, the person you're interviewing, they will notice immediately, okay? They just will, because they've been in this business a long time and they're used to the same old, same old, same old. So when you come in there with some new information that they already know, but maybe everybody else in the room are clueless to, you're gonna stand out and you're gonna make that connection. And that's really what it's all about. You want an interview to turn into a conversation. And the best way you can do that is if you do your research so you know who you're talking to. I feel like I know them when I walk in, not just because they're a star, but because I've put the time in to read other interviews that they've done, read their bio, go to their social media, watch some of their work. I'm going beyond just what the publicist gives you, okay? You just, don't want to see a list of their work. Find out who they are, and you can do that before you sit down with them. And when you infuse that in your questions, it makes for a great conversation. Even if it's a short conversation, they can tell that you've done your research just by the questions that you ask.
You did your research. That's exactly what it's about. Ooh, girl, you getting it out of me today. Let me see this. Ooh, girl, hold on. Ooh. Ooh. It's some interview and shit over here. Girl, you got me crying up here.
When Jennifer Lewis said you've been doing your research, I knew I had been doing my research, because Jennifer Lewis is not the kind of person who's just gonna say anything to anybody just to be nice, okay? It's got to have an element of truth to it. So research can take you so far, and it's the one thing that I would recommend that you do for every interview that you do. Even the red carpets where you don't get that long to talk to the person. Still, know who you're talking to, know what they've done, know some kernel of information that may connect you to it. And you will see the difference. You will literally see the difference. That's what I heard about the Bill Cosby episode.
Oh, yeah, it's coming. Yes, it's going to be, yeah.
It's gonna be good.
I think people are going to be, oh, my God.
I can't wait. Well, congratulations. You look beautiful always.
Thank you, and you're such a great interviewer. My goodness. No wonder you had her howling over here.
It's not just questions and answers anymore. You're actually having a conversation because you know what you're talking about. You know them. You know stuff that they don't have to tell you. That makes for a conversation. Another instance where my research just really helped me shine in the interview was with Faith Evans. She was doing R&B Divas on TV One. She was like an executive producer as well as being a part of the cast. And we got a chance to interview her. And I made it a point to read Faith's book. She has like a memoir. And I read that from the beginning to the end and took out stuff to ask her from that. Now, of course, the memoir was way older than the project that she was working on. But that's one thing about research and books and information. It never changes if it's the truth. So even though that memoir had been done several years prior, the information was still valid. It was still true. It was still part of Faith's life. And so when I reference things that I learned in the book about her in my question, in my conversation with her, she immediately knew. There was one question I asked her about creating a voicemail message when she was a kid. Did she remember it? I was hoping that I could get her to sing a little bit. And she just lit up, remembered the song, sang the song, and then told me that she's never sang that for anybody else. Like, I got a worldwide exclusive. Do you remember any part of your 4-part harmony outgoing voicemail messages?
I know the whole song.
Can you please sing?
Damn, I can't do the harmony, but it goes, I'm gonna do my hand like this when the harmony comes in. Okay, it goes. I'm not at home, so don't hang up the phone. I'll get back to you. All you have to do is leave a message at the tone.
You're probably the only person I ever sang that for. You got a worldwide exclusive.
And the only reason that is because that is what caught my eye in reading the book. Not many people are reading books, are watching the films before they interview someone. Sometimes they don't have a chance to, and sometimes they're just lazy and just don't do it. But when you do it, when you do reference it, when it is something that connects with them, it works. it connects you to the person, it connects you to the conversation, and it elevates it to another level, like you are friends. I mean, Faith asked me after the interview, don't I know you from somewhere? And I so wanted to say, yes, we hung out in New York, but I couldn't. I said, I wish, Faith, I wish. Because who doesn't love Faith Evans? I love Faith Evans, and I wish that was true. But that came as a result of me connecting with her from the questions that I did, which was all steeped in good research about Faith Evans. So she immediately felt like we kind of knew each other because I knew all about her. You know, it's just so important that you take the time, put the effort in to know what they're doing, not just the projects, but who they are and what's important to them. Just makes for, you know, your interview experience to be an experience, not just a question and answer thing. Research is just imperative. I know you can't like buy a personality. You have to connect with people on your own, but there is no excuse for not doing research. Whether you're on the red carpet, one-on-one, you need to find out about these people because it's going to immediately turn the interview from an interview to a conversation and also enable that person to possibly remember you in the future, which is great. That's what you want. That's what you want, for people to come up to you for an interview on the red carpet because they remembered you. They remember how good you were. They remember that you did do your research. You begin to develop a reputation that people want to be associated with, that you're not asking crap. You've really done your research. And that's who they want to talk to. People who are really interested in them, what they do, and sometimes beyond what they do, who they are. And you can make that connection just by doing great research. Only person that says Dawn Richard.
Yes, you are gonna be. Oh my God, you are gonna be the only one. Oh, I should bow down and kiss your feet. Oh, yes, that's my name. Yes. I stopped correcting people because I felt like it was obvious, but they just never. They put an S. They find a son, and it becomes Richardson's son. It just gets so creative. But soon we're gonna become Dawn, and it's gonna be fine. I won't even use my damn last name.
New Orleans representative.
Yeah, born and raised. I just want to love you all day, you know.
And congratulations on being an independent artist and really beating it down. Just you and your 5-member team.
I love you.
Take the time, put the effort in. People will say things to you that you never thought that they would. When I interviewed Kirk Whalum, I asked him a question about an accident that he had. When you were back in Houston, you were going to give up your musical career and try something else, and you worked at a department store for one day. Then you got in a car accident. What was it about that accident that led you back to music?
Yeah. This is probably the best interview I've ever done. Nobody has ever asked me that question.
He's been in the business for probably 30 years. And for somebody to ask something about his life that he hadn't been asked before, that's a huge statement. When I interviewed Bryce Wilson, who is the DJ, producer, he was also one half of Groove Theory, that was out a long time ago. And he was in a lot of movies that we remember, Beauty Shop being one of them. And I did research that he had learned how to cornrow for his role in Beauty Shop. And before he could even answer the question that I had posed to him, he's just like, where did you find that out from? Like, how do you know that? Oh my gosh, you really did your research. Speaking of the films that you turned down, one that you didn't turn down was Beauty Shop. Mm-hmm. So what was that experience like? Because I know that they sent you to Crenshaw to learn how to do cornrows.
You did your research. Where'd you get all this information from? You did a lot of research. How would you know that?
90% of the stars you interview are asked the same questions over and over and over. And some of it you just can't get around because you're there to talk about a movie, you're there to talk about a book. So some things, yeah, they're gonna be repeated. But if you do your research, you can find things that nobody's talking about and connect in a way that nobody has done before. Well, I have so enjoyed getting to know you. I mean, I feel like this is the second time that I'm getting to know you because I meet people in the research first.
Yeah.
You know?
You've done a lot of research. Like a lot of research.
But it was great because I got to learn about you. You know what I mean?
Thank you. This is a really good interview.
Oh, thank you.
Really,
I appreciate that.
Interesting stuff.
Well, you know, this is my craft, so
yes.
I take pride in it. And
absolutely. You're very good at it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Very good at it.
I want to be
you didn't just hit like the corny marks. When somebody this, man, the corner marks.
Yeah. So research is your friend. It's one of the most important things to do if you're an interviewer. You want to know what you're talking about. You want to know who you're talking to. And you want to go beyond just what they do, but who they are. And it's all in the research. It really is. Red carpet interviews. The Hollywood big movies, great events, the Oscars, the Grammys. It's always a red carpet, but in Hollywood, there's a red carpet for almost anything. So there are red carpets of all sizes. And the first thing that you need to do to secure your spot on the red carpet is to fill out a media credential form. Now, what is a credential form? It tells who you are, how many people work with you, so that the people who are putting together the red carpet will know. You might want to include your real social media because they'll look at all that. And then you'll get an email back saying that you are approved. Once you are approved, go through all your checklists for your equipment, everything, do your research, and you're headed out there to that red carpet. I advise you to get there early because sometimes they have your name of your outlet like Studio Q, Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood. They have it laid out so you go to that exact place. Sometimes there is no you stand here and you stand here. It's first come, first serve. So the earlier you get, the better position you are able to maneuver for yourself to interview these stars on the red carpet. It's a lot of things going on at one time. It goes quiet and then here comes the storm. What is the storm? All these celebrities that you want to talk to all at one time. So let's break this thing down. Usually you'll get like a tip sheet. What is a tip sheet? It tells you who's all there and maybe like what's their latest project or something that you may recognize them for. Oprah Winfrey, OWN Network, or if she's working on a new movie, the movie will be listed. Just so if you haven't done your research, but I know that you guys will do your research, then you have something to talk about. Sometimes I would have note cards in my back pocket or be looking on my phone just of other little things that they did, just doing more research on the spot. But here's where it gets tricky. So you got like all of these stars, but you also have all of these reporters or photographers who want to take pictures of them and who also want to talk to them. So you really have to know who you want to interview, not talk long to the people that you're not that interested in or don't know that much about. You need to limit how long you're talking to people so you can talk to everybody, or and more importantly, talk to the people that you came there to talk to. It's a very bite-sized experience than one-on-one. But you have to be prepared for this too. You got to be quick on your feet. You have to keep your interview and your questions short. You have to make sure that you're not talking to this person long so that the person that you really want doesn't walk by. And sometimes you have to be assertive. If you're a quote-unquote newbie or nobody that the publicist doesn't recognize as a big outlet for their client, they might try to not have you interview them because they see Entertainment Tonight over here or Access Hollywood, so they just may skip you. So you got to make sure you get in there with your mic and really let them know, I'm here to do an interview. Call the people's name. Viola Davis, Angela Bassett, call their name. But don't let the publicist or you not being assertive enough be the reason that you don't get your interview. Make sure you do all that you can do. And it gets tricky because it's crowded on the carpet. There's so many people to talk to. They've got publicists guiding them. You got to wait for the photographers to finish taking their pictures. If you're waiting on an interview, you have to time it. But do you want to do an interview while they're doing an interview, or you want to wait so you can interview this person? I mean, you really have to manage your time and have your list of priorities of who you want and what you want to talk about. And all of it is like this: quick, 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 quick. These are not documentaries we're doing on the red carpet. These are quick questions, but you still want to make them be thoughtful and you still want to have a connection. You just have less time to do it. If you're connected with the publicist already, they may put you on their PR list, which means they will invite you to cover red carpets. And when they do, they'll tell you what invited guests are going to be there. It is say on there, these are the list of invited guests, confirmed guests, VIP guests, but doesn't mean that they're going to actually show up. I've learned this from experience. So they have all these great lists of people that you can't wait to put your microphone in front of, and none of them show up. It's a whole bunch of people that you had no idea who they were, and that's what you're left with. But you don't find out until you're actually on the carpet. And then some people could have confirmed, but they just decided not to walk the red carpet. So it is any kind of game when it comes to red carpet. You can experience so many different things. While you're actually on the red carpet, know that there are a bunch of pushy publicists who have new clients who may want you to interview their client, whether you know who they are or not, and will come up to you very assertively, asking for an interview, telling you about what they've done, what they've accomplished, so you can get an interview. That's their job, is to get their client press. But you came to interview Viola Davis. You have to balance all this, because while you're talking to this somebody that you know nothing of, the person that you came to interview can walk right by. And because you were already occupied, you won't get that interview. So your whole trip is just a bust, really, because you were being nice to this publicist trying to get you to interview their client. The red carpet to me is like the Wild Wild West, you know. You're talking to some people that you've been dying to talk to for a few minutes, but the other people are walking by as you talk, because you can't talk to everybody at once, and it's a limited amount of time that you're talking. Plus, you know, like, what if your batteries run out? You got to put your batteries in. I mean, it could be a very stressful, intense situation. And then all this time you're doing research. Remember, we talked about research and how important that is? Well, with the red carpet, it's a little different, because I've done a bunch of research for everybody listed that was confirmed, and then they don't show up. So I've basically wasted a bunch of time doing research on people that I'm not even going to talk to, because they're not even there. So in the case of red carpet interviews, I do think you should do research on people, maybe not as in depth as you would if it was one-on-one, and just have like a standard list of questions that you can ask anybody. So this is where you can be general, because you don't know what the red carpet is going to give you every time. Now, if you know for sure that that person's going to be there and you're going to get to interview them, then, you know, you do your research and you go with the questions that you come up with. But it's so up in the air sometimes, even on the biggest carpets like the Oscars, the Grammys, BET Awards, NAACP Awards. It's so many people, depending on the importance and the time factor. You just don't know who you're going to end up talking to, for how long. You just need to prepare for anything in those cases. And when you're on the red carpet, one of the things that you can do when you're not interviewing, just take in the ambiance. Get on Snapchat, get on Instagram. I mean, you can even do a live and just get all the behind the scenes that people don't see and share it in real time on social media. Because once you're doing the interviews, you don't have time for all of that. But take pictures of, you know, just the carpet and other people interviewing, and take a selfie. These all help you remember the moment, share the moment with other people, and gives you more content other than just your interviews. It's real important to do social media in the moment while you're there. And the best way to do that is if you get there early and you can kind of take in things. You could do a little vlog telling everybody where you're at. All that stuff helps you, helps your brand, helps the content creation of what you're doing, and tells a story of your red carpet experience. So don't forget those little things as well. I mean, the interview is the big thing. Whenever I've covered red carpets, I've been able to produce a bunch of content. I also take pictures, take selfies. Sometimes I take pictures with the stars and post it immediately to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, before I even get home to edit all the interviews. So that's important. Keep that in mind. We live in a social media world, and you want to document everything that you're doing. My very first red carpet that I attended was with Whitney Houston for Studio Q. It was the first one. I saw a flyer on Twitter that had Whitney Houston's face on it, that she was going to be appearing at Kelly Price's pre-Grammy party. Now, being a huge Whitney Houston fan, I knew for certain that Whitney was never going to have her picture on a flyer if she wasn't considering coming. Whitney's face is on there. Kelly Price, she really loves Kelly Price, she's gonna be there. So I put into motion, you know, contacting the people behind the red carpet, trying to figure out how I could get credentials to do my first red carpet. Now, mind you, I had no camera. I did have a full-fledged mic, but I really didn't have the equipment to do this, but that didn't stop me because I was just a huge Whitney fan, and no matter who else was gonna be on the carpet, my main reason for going was Whitney Houston. Well, I immediately got a email saying that I wasn't credentialed. I told Tam, who's also a big fan, my best friend, the person who's filmed, you know, all of my interviews since 2012. And she said, let's just give it another try. I was completely done with it. Tam was like, no, let's just try one more time. If we can't do it, we won't do it. But let me just give it one more college try. And I said, you know, go for it. And Tam did, and guess what? I don't know how this happened, but she got confirmed. So within 24 hours of this red carpet, Tam sacrificed her first Louis Vuitton, okay? She didn't really sacrifice it, she delayed her purchase, and purchased a camera, because she's like, we can't go out on a red carpet with these flip cams. And I'm like, use what we have. But she just wasn't having it. So I thank her for her investment, because we did look the part once she got the camera, and she didn't even know how to use it. Somebody at her job taught her how to use it. So we were fresh off the boat, and this was our first red carpet, and the drive to be there was Whitney Houston. So once we get there, I don't even think we saw Studio Q. I think we saw something that said QTV. And it was very obvious that even though I hadn't been credentialed the first time, that if we would have just came there prepared, we could have just been on the red carpet with our stuff, just like the paparazzi. I don't think we really needed approval at all. But you know, you have to be a go-getter to even know that. And I still was not convinced that Whitney was going to walk the carpet. I believed that she was coming. I just don't think her face would be on something that she wouldn't honor, and plus, you know, her relationship with Kelly Price. But that does not necessarily mean that she's going to walk the red carpet. I mean, this was a small carpet for Whitney Houston, and she could have just went into the club. But for whatever reason, she did walk that carpet. And I was so thrilled, because I've met Whitney before, childhood idol on MTV Fanatic, and she remembered me. I've seen her throughout the years, but when she walked down that red carpet, I yelled her name, it's me, hoping that she would remember me, and she did. She came over and gave me a hug. She talked to me for a few seconds, and thank God, because she passed away 2 days later. So if I would have kept my mindset, oh, I'll see her on Saturday. We did go to the Beverly Hilton that Saturday, but when we arrived, Whitney had already died. But because we went to this red carpet 2 days prior, we got to see her. We got to have footage of her last red carpet. And on her last red carpet, she only stopped for me. What a gift.
Thank you. Thank you.
Whitney, it's me.
Thank
it's
you.
me. It's me. It's me. My friend. My friend.
This was a moment that we will cherish forever. And it's our first red carpet experience. Like Whitney Houston made our first red carpet pop. She made it wonderful. She made it beautiful. The only reason that we were there is because we just didn't give up. We didn't take no for an answer. And even if Tam didn't get the confirmation and we showed up, we would have seen that we just had to be there, just like a paparazzi, prepared with our camera, you know, with our questions. Sometimes you just got to get in where you fit in and not be afraid. But most importantly, just don't give up. Even when you get that first no, find another way. Find another way. Conducting one-on-one interviews are completely different from red carpet interviews, and they're actually my favorite because it's more intimate. Even if you only have 10 minutes, you got 10 minutes one-on-one with that person. Doing those interviews to me allow you to really connect with the person, create the conversation that your research is influencing. I get the biggest high off of doing one-on-one interviews. What I love about one-on-one is just the intimacy of it. Red carpet is boom, 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 boom. Quick, 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 quick. Who's coming next? Who just left? What's going on? With the one-on-one, It's you and the other person typically. Unless, like I said, it's extreme situations where it's 2 cast members, 3, the whole cast. But normally it's just that one-on-one, and you can cultivate that cool, intimate conversation that you normally don't get on a red carpet. Sometimes the person is wrapping you up, so get what you want out first, the most important things that you want to ask that person, because sometimes you just don't have enough time to have the full conversation that you want. And when you go home, you can cut them up. You don't just have to, I mean, you can have one long interview that you did, but you can also cut them up in clips. Since we live in a social media world, people have short attention spans, and a good way to get them wanting to watch your entire interview is to give them good clips. When I interviewed Tony Rock, a clip from my interview actually went viral. I shared it to Vlad TV, Baller Alert picked it up, and it went viral because when we were in the room for the last question that I asked him, which was about Steve Harvey meeting with Donald Trump, Chrisette Michele doing the inauguration for Donald Trump, it was a very basic question. I just wanted to know his thoughts, but his response was epic, hilarious. Everybody in the room laughed their butts off, and we knew we had something that people would laugh and appreciate from Tony Rock. Well, Steve Harvey, you're a comedian. I mean, he went to Bridge.
Yo, why? Can I curse?
Yeah, it's the internet.
Who the fuck picked Steve Harvey as the representative for all things black? Steve Harvey, let's keep this shit funky. Steve Harvey is on his 3rd marriage. His 3rd wife was mistress to his 2nd wife. Yet, black people have anointed this motherfucker the oracle when it comes to black dating. This nigga wrote a book on dating. You on your 3rd wife, homie. Why can't we pick, with all respect, why can't we pick a nigga that know what he's talking about? Who made Steve Harvey the voice? And now he met with Trump. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck?
That clip went viral. People on the Ricky Smiley Show was talking about it. Breakfast Club. It kind of went everywhere. And the reason I was even able to get that viral clip was because of the comfortability of Tony Rock in the interview. By the end of that interview, he just felt comfortable enough to say what was really on his mind, what was really on his heart, because I didn't bait him with anything. The only thing I asked him was, you know, how you feel about Chrisette Michele doing the inauguration for Trump, and how do you feel about Steve Harvey? And it just went from there. Mind you, his publicist told me he had interviews all day, never responded to anything like this. So it was the comfortability that he felt with me. I asked him about his brothers, I asked him about his career, I asked him about everything. And by the end of that interview, I just felt that he was comfortable enough to be himself. So instead of just putting the whole interview out, I put that clip out and shared it to bigger outlets. And because Tony Rock was sitting behind a backdrop that said TV1, they did not like it. The higher ups did not like it. Now, mind you, when we were in the room and his publicist was there, TV1 publicist was there, management, nobody said anything. They laughed. Actually, Tam even forgot her purse, went back the next day, and they still didn't say anything. But when it went viral and it was being shared everywhere, they asked us to take it down because they had TV1 in the back and they couldn't control what was coming out of Tony Rock's mouth. And you know, they really tried to blame us for it. Like, why would we put something up there with him talking about Steve Harvey like that? Like, but the onus is not on us. The onus is on Tony Rock and saying whatever he wanted to say, the comedian that he is. And we just put it out there. But this brings up a great point when the footage is yours. You can either do what they asked, because they asked us to take it down. But by then it already went viral. We decided to take it down to maintain the relationship with them, but it had already went viral, so it didn't matter that we took it down. But I wanted to bring this up because people are going to be asking you all kinds of things, especially if you have good interviews, good clips, good content. So we could have absolutely said, no, we're not taking it down, you know, because it's our footage. He said it. You had a TV One background. Oh well, we had that choice. We had that absolute right because it was our footage, and our whole thing is to expose our interviews to a greater audience. And what more can a viral clip do but do exactly what we wanted to do, which is that show, the interview to a wider audience. So you have that decision when your content is fire, when your content blows up. People are concerned about themselves. TV One didn't want Tony Rock saying anything about Steve Harvey in that way because maybe they had a relationship with Steve Harvey. But he's a comedian. He said it. They didn't want us to put it out because people were responding to it, but it's our footage. We took it down because we had established a relationship with the publicist and we were just being nice. But I want you to know that you have every right to leave something up even if somebody asks you to take it down, because it's your stuff. We could have absolutely kept that interview up. And so what? It's our footage. Sorry it made you look this way, but nobody thought about that before. And you're gonna get people, possibly celebrities, if you have a picture out or an interview clip or whatever. I've been asked to take stuff down and the celebrity would retweet it and take something out of it. I mean, you don't work for these people. Can you take a picture down because I don't like the way I look? I mean, maybe I will, maybe I won't, but you don't have to. This is your stuff. They're public figures. It's your content. You can keep it up, as much as you want. If you want to be nice, if you like that person or want to establish a relationship and say, okay, it's not a big deal, I'll take it down, fine. But you don't have to. You just don't have to. And I want you to know that is the power of doing your own stuff. If you work for somebody else, they would make all those decisions, but you get to make it when it's your content. The decision is yours and yours alone. And that's the beauty of working for yourself and creating your own content. When people feel comfortable with you, they share things that they might not share with anybody else. You are able to get that if you do your research, come prepared, not afraid to ask the questions, not afraid to turn just this question and answer into an actual conversation. You will be surprised at all the wonderful content that you'll get just out of that nobody else is gonna get but you. When you're doing this yourself, when you're making moves with just you and maybe a good friend, you need to know how to navigate interview challenges. It's just part of life. Give you an example. Dawn Lewis, an actress, we set up an interview with her. Usually a publicist comes with the star when you do an interview, but in this case, it was just Dawn Lewis by herself. We met at the Sherman Oaks Galleria, which is, like a plaza where they have different restaurants and movie theaters and shops. And we were going to do the interview there. So when we bust out our cameras and are about to conduct the interview, somebody came and it was like, no, you cannot film here. You need a permit. You can't do this. Now that could have just been the end of it all. We could have just had to reschedule the interview. But Dawn Lewis was like mad cool. She said, you know what? There's a park up the street, like a couple blocks. We could do the interview there. And we were game because now none of our time would be wasted because we didn't have a permit or we didn't know to have a permit at this place. So we got in our cars and we went to the park, which was just a couple of blocks up, and we actually did the interview. Things may happen where you have to shift and move and do this and do that, and it's not at all what you had planned, but it still can get done. And especially when you have somebody cool like Dawn, who was like, this doesn't have to be a wash, we could do it somewhere else. She was so cool about it. And we did it, and now we have that interview forever. There's bound to be some challenges, and you have to be able to think quick on your feet and mostly just not give up. Persevere. Figure out a way to get it done, even with the challenges. You have to rise above that. Another example where we encountered interview challenges was on the red carpet of Eddie Murphy's independent film called Mr. Church. Okay, so we are beyond excited. Like, Eddie Murphy is the greatest of all time, at least of this generation when it comes to comedy. He is the GOAT. So cannot wait to be able to have the opportunity to interview him. And we're on the red carpet. Everything's going fine. We do all the things that I've shared with you in this course. We've prepared. We've taken all kind of video and pictures. Before Eddie comes, we've interviewed the director, Arsenio Hall, a bunch of other people who came out to support Eddie. But when it was finally time for Eddie Murphy to hit the carpet, all things went to hell. We recorded everybody but Eddie Murphy. The way that they had the carpet set up was more than one journalist spoke to Eddie Murphy at a time. And each of us, may have gotten to ask 1 or 2 questions when he was in front of us. So when he came to me, I was like the center, and there were, a journalist on this side, journalist on that side. I asked them a question, they asked him a question. But when he left, Tam realized that for some reason she didn't press record, or she thought she pressed record, or the camera stopped. Whatever the case may be, the entire reason we came there was to interview Eddie Murphy, and that was the only video that we did not get. But here was the beauty. The fact that they grouped it like they did, where 3 to 4 journalists talked to Eddie at one time, meant that we weren't the only one filming at the time. So we were still able to get that footage from somebody else of my question, my answer, of the whole time that he was in front of us. When Tam discovered that she didn't have that footage, she went into like crisis mode, like, oh my gosh. But I was like, no, I wish he would have told me so much sooner, because every mistake, or what is disguised as a mistake, is really just a stepping stone of learning, and nothing is the end of the world. And I said, I'm sure somebody else has that same footage, because we weren't the only ones who were filming. And we researched and we got the footage. So there's always a way to make it better. Like even when we didn't have no sound, use the video as B-roll. This time we had no footage at all, but somebody else did. Same thing with when we interviewed Whitney on the first red carpet. Tam thought that when Whitney was passing and talking to me and giving me a hug, that it wasn't recorded. It was the first time she ever used that camera. So she didn't know, she thought, and she, believed that she didn't get it. But I was calm, because there was a bunch of people out there who got everything that happened as well. Now, of course, you want your own footage. You want your own archives and content and vault. But sometimes life happens, especially when you're not familiar with your camera. You haven't taken the time you needed to know what works, what doesn't work. And sometimes you can know all of that, be over prepared, and something still goes astray. But you just can't let that stop you. I would not have the hundreds and hundreds of interviews that I have, because any little thing can throw you off. But you have to persevere. You have to go around it. When you encounter challenges, know that they're just a part of the evolution of what you're doing, and don't give up. Figure out a way to make it work. So all the mistakes that I'm mentioning that we've learned through all these interview challenges, some of it is just plain ignorance. We just didn't know. I'm putting myself on. And in order to do that, I'm learning what cameras I need. I'm learning what lighting I need, learning what lavaliers, what mics. And sometimes you're going to make mistakes. You're going to encounter challenges, but it's okay. Each time we encountered a problem, most people did not know. It was really just her and I that knew, oh, this is messed up, or we didn't get this, or whatever. But the stuff that we put out to the world, the content, it was great. I'm super proud that 2 Black women were able to come together and put out great content, great interviews. But you're gonna have challenges. When we interviewed Will Downing, it was in a hotel room. At that time, we didn't have a light. We didn't have a big light that we have now. And so trying to take the lamp shade off of the lamp, so to give more light, because Black people need more light, so they're not so dark. But that video was clearly dark. I did an interview with Eddie Levert on Skype. It was the quality that was kind of dark. And that's just going to be sometimes. And sometimes the only redeeming value is doing an awesome interview where that stuff don't matter. It's the content of what you're saying to one another is what's most important. As long as people can see it and they can hear it and you are doing the damn thing, that's what's most important. That's what's going to be remembered. That's what's going to be shared. That's what's going to go viral. Another thing about conducting one-on-one interviews is, you want it to be organic. So yeah, you've done all this research, you've come up with some really great questions, but if you're just tied to your questions and not the person, it makes it, to me, not authentic and not a real conversation. Because sometimes what you have listed may not be the direction that your conversation takes, and your conversation is predicated on the other person. So don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions. Don't just stick to your questions all the time. Actually listen to what the person that you're interviewing is saying. And it might require a follow-up question that you never intended to ask, but because they said something, it triggered that. You have to remember that interviewing is, it's structured as Q&A, but it can be so much more. You want it to be a conversation. And in order to do that, sometimes you just can't be tied to a script. You have to just listen to the person. Sometimes you can even see interviewers tied to their questions and can't wait till the person finishes so they can ask them something else that they wanted to ask, but maybe not following up with what they're saying, which might be something you didn't even think of, but is incredibly interesting and something that the viewers would love to know more about. So you have to balance that, because you also could have someone who just rambles and rambles and rambles, and you only have like 5-10 minute space of time, and you have to get out of them what you need to get out of them without running out of time and really not touching on any of the subject matters that you were there to do. So it is a dance. Like when I was interviewing Jennifer Lewis, my fear was she's such a huge personality that Jennifer Lewis doesn't really even need anybody to interview her. She could just take over and be a one-woman show based off of one question. I wanted to be in the room too. I wanted to be part of the conversation as well. I just didn't want Jennifer talking and entertaining everybody else, and I'm like, an inanimate object that really didn't even need to be there. And in order for you to do that, in order for me to accomplish a conversation versus just a one-woman show, which, trust me, is entertaining as well, I had to do so much research. I had to follow up on questions that she was asking that might not have been part of my cards or part of my interview questions. And sometimes you have to do that, but it makes the connection that you have with the other person so much stronger, as well as, giving people who are watching an honest, authentic conversation that's just not Q&A. So keep that in mind when you're doing one-on-one. Don't just be tied to those questions. Also follow up, listen to the person who's talking, and follow up on what they're saying. I've had so many mistakes. I think I've talked about them a lot already through this eCourse, but I'm going to share some more, because I just think that if you can learn from something that I did, I've just saved you some time. That's the whole point of this eCourse. Nothing like this really existed when I first started. I really had to piecemeal stuff together. And if I can make it easier for somebody else wanting to do what I'm doing, then I'm all game. So here are some of the mistakes that I made. One, being on the red carpet. I went to The Bodyguard, which starred Deborah Cox, and Angela Bassett was coming to support her, so she was going to walk the red carpet. So I was on the red carpet. There was two gentlemen next to me who were twins. They called themselves the Twin Zones or whatever, and they were so excited about Angela Bassett's arrival. Like I was, I'm happy to talk to Angela Bassett. I'm talking to I think that Loretta Devine came, Kim Whitley, a bunch of people that I want to talk to. But of course, Angela Bassett is an A-list star. Like, she's been in some of my favorite movies. So I was just excited as the guys next to me to talk to her. So when Angela Bassett walked the carpet, I was just watching her and, taking pictures with my phone and everything like that. And I could kind of sense that she really didn't want to talk. She was fine with taking pictures, but she really didn't want to talk. And I just kind of did not assert myself. I don't know if I was a little starstruck or I was just feeling her vibe and didn't want to rock the boat. But that was completely wrong, because what am I there for? I am there to interview. And the only way that I don't get the interview is if they tell me no. If they do not stop, it should never be because I didn't put out some type of vibe that I want to interview. Like, hey, Angela, I could have called her name and she could have ignored me, but she probably wouldn't have. And I probably would have got an interview. Long story short, the twins next to me, they did everything that I didn't. And I think this was like their first or second red carpet. It was, you know, they hadn't even done like a million red carpets like I had already done, but they were eager. And the only reason they came, well, one of the main reasons they came was to speak to Angela Bassett, and they weren't leaving until they got that. They called her name. She came over. She did a drop for them. She didn't like the first one. She did it again. I mean, she was so engaging, and I'm just like watching it happen literally 2 steps away from me. This could have happened, but it could have happened after my interaction, my interview. I mean, I cannot believe I did not say anything. All I did was get like a picture of my microphone right next to Angela Bassett. They spoke to Angela Bassett, they talked to her, she embraced them, and I just kind of like laid in the cut. Like, what is that? So I just want to urge you that if you're on that carpet, everybody may not come to you. Call their name, position yourself so that you can be ready to go with the interview. Ask them a question out loud. At the SAG Awards, all of these big major stars that I really wanted to talk to, like Queen Latifah, the whole cast from NWA's biopic film, Straight Out of Compton, members from Black Panther, they all just kind of walked by because they had talked to like probably 1 million people, or maybe just a handful of the main people before they got down to where I was located, which was at the end of the carpet. Just imagine being on the other side of the camera and you are a big star and you start here. It's really, you can't talk to everybody. I mean, that happens, but that doesn't mean it happens all the time. And it doesn't mean that that's the perspective that you should have, is that you go to these things and you don't come back with an interview. No, you come back with an interview. There's a lot of people out there wanting to get the same thing as you, and it's competitive. So you have to open up your mouth, something that I did not do. Another mistake I made was partnering up with a website that really wasn't my brand. They were celebrity news, celebrity gossip, kind of on the edge of could be messy. And they reached out to me to do interviews for their website, and they would pay me to do that. Well, I was like, oh wow, you know, I love interviewing anyway. My interviews will get to see more people, and plus I'll bring in some revenue for what I love to do. But you have to make sure that you're a good fit. The interviews that I do, I'm very proud of them. I do a lot of research. If I'm really trying to find out the journey behind the craft, to give viewers inspiration on staying in the game, how to do things. You know, you may spark something that could inspire or motivate somebody else, but I am not trying to uncover, investigate, put anybody on the spot. I'm just trying to have a really great, authentic conversation about who they are, what they do, and that's basically it. But this website, they're interested in headlines, clickbait, okay? So they're sending me out to do interviews with people, and the kind of things that they wanted to know was just not what I was willing to continue just on a consistent basis asking celebrities, because it would, first of all, probably harm my reputation. Like, why would somebody want to continue to talk to you if all you're trying to do is uncover dirt and then blast it on a site? Like, that's not what I got into this to do or to be. The site, they definitely say, you know, I don't know if this is going to be a good fit because I saw your interviews, but just how you connect with the celebrities is what I love. You know, but the reason that I connected with the celebrities like that, because I did do my research. I did have a personality. I was prepared. I wasn't trying to uncover anything messy and put them, you know, out there crazy. Like, no, that's not my deal. And it's easy to see that sitting with me after an interview and what I do with it afterwards. So to now partner up with somebody whose agenda is completely different was a complete misstep for me. After about 3 interviews, I realized that and we parted ways. You may want to do interviews for other people. Make sure it's like what you want to do, because you know, for somebody else, that would have been like a perfect match. Asking celebrities about this and asking, you know, there's a lot of people who do that. I'm just not one of those people. You know, that's not my path. That's not my lane. But for those that's their lane, cool, go ahead and do that. But it wasn't for me. So make sure when, you know, you were partnering up that it matches who you are and you're cool with the kind of questions that you have to ask and the content that they're producing with you in it. Just be careful of that, because if it doesn't reflect you, that's what you're going to be known for. Or I didn't want to be known for asking like crazy kind of questions that are just messy. I'm okay with making money, but not me doing those things. Another thing that you should always try to do when you're doing a celebrity interview, or interviewing anybody for that matter, especially one-on-ones, do an intro. I was absolutely horrible at this. I would approach the red carpet like I knew people, because I knew them, but guess what? They don't know me. I don't even think I remember to say, hey, I'm Quencie from Studio Q. I didn't even tell my name. I just started the interview. Even with the one-on-one interviews where I'm sitting down and I have the opportunity to intro this person, and I just was horrible at it. I remember sitting almost knee to knee with Bishop T.D. Jakes, who is this renowned man, this renowned pastor. He's counseled several presidents. He's written several bestseller books. Oprah had a whole life class based on one of his books. And I just start the interview, okay? I admire T.D. Jakes, but I didn't even intro him. Like, I'm sitting here with Bishop T.D. Jakes, who blah, 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 blah. No, I was very, very nervous, first of all. And I think that it's imperative to give an intro. It just makes the people feel great. When I did do a really great intro, it's very rare that I've done this, but when I interviewed Sheila E., it was a podcast interview, it was over the phone. So, you know, I had all my questions right in front of me on a Word doc, and I actually had an intro. And I could just feel through her energy that like it was well received. Like I said, when I've seen other people do it, people like that. People like that. And I just wasn't good at it, really didn't work on it. It's something that I would advise you to do. It's gonna make the interview so much better, because when people know that you already know about them and giving them a nice introduction, it's great. It always feels good. It doesn't have to be this long, elaborate, long thing, but even if it's 20 seconds long, I will guarantee it will go a much longer way. Something else that I was very, very horrible at, I completely hid behind Studio Q, my logo, my mic. Even when I would be on the red carpet, people would think that I was working for Studio Q when I was Studio Q. Now, there's no way that you can watch TMZ in any capacity and not know that TMZ belongs to Harvey Levin. So even when you're not part of the logo, you can still let people know that this is you. I did not do that. All you saw was my hand, my mic. I was so bad that you didn't even hear me ask questions. I would replace my voice, okay, with a black screen and a question. So I wasn't fond of my voice. I didn't really want to be seen on camera. I just wanted to do really amazing interviews with as many people as I could. But then people don't even know that that's you. And I wasn't vlogging or doing anything to tell people. I didn't have a podcast to say, hey, that's me. So, you know, you got a bunch of sound bites or great interviews, but who's doing the interview? You know it's an Oprah interview. You know it's an Ellen interview. Like, they're in the shot. I purposely made myself not be in the shot and just focused all on the person. I would say that that's a mistake. You're the one administering the questions. Don't hide behind your mic or your brand like I did. Make sure you're in front. Make sure everybody knows that you're the one who asked that question. You're the one who did that interview. I had a clip that went viral last year from an interview that I did. But guess what? Nobody knew that I was the one who asked that question. So make sure you're in the shot, even if you don't feel like you look the way you want to look yet. You have to just go out there and do it. Do the best you can. Don't hide. I hid. So a lot of people have no idea that the Q in Studio Q means Quencie. But if I was out there, if I was in every shot, you would know that. If I did intros, this is Quencie with Studio Q, intro. Don't get caught up in stuff that really doesn't matter. It's about the questions you ask. It's about your personality coming alive. It's about doing a good job. It's about putting the content out there. I was even like, oh my gosh, my arm is fat. Cut some of that out. It was really ridiculous. I always have been self-conscious about what I look like and all that stuff, but nobody else cares as much as you do. They just don't. This eCourse is not about how good I look. It's about the information that I'm relaying to you and you using it to transform whatever you're doing into something great, okay? You don't care about my braid, my lipstick, my anything. You want the information so that you can interview the stars you love. You can put it out there. You can monetize it. You can create a great brand all by yourself. So don't get caught up in that. Don't do what I did. Don't do what I did and hide. Because when you hide, people really won't know who you are. You have to promote yourself. You have to raise your hand and say, yeah, no, it's me who did that. Or make it obvious by being in the shot. Focus on being great and the rest will fall into place. Another mistake I made was not networking at all of these events that I covered. I really just went in, got the interview, got home, put up the interview, and tried to get my next interview. But you have to network with people. This is a social business, it's entertainment. You need to talk to people, exchange business cards. Because talking to other people, you can find out about other events, you can find out about other publicists to clients. You can actually end up covering different stuff just because you vibe with somebody, just because they liked you, just because they saw what you were doing and said, hey, we're doing this over here. Are you gonna be there? And you might not even know, but it could be something big. It could be Beyonce, it could be anything. But you won't ever know if you just stay in your own little circle like I did. You need to network, exchange information, go to people's social media, say, hey, you know, I met you at so-and-so, compliment them on something authentically, don't make up something, but interact with people. It is something that will just make you go further because it's a people industry. You know, you are talking to people, you're interviewing people, you're following up with people. So you have to be social, you have to network, and it can push you further so quick. So don't be afraid to talk to people around you and network. That is how you develop relationships, maintain relationships. Be ready to come out your comfort zone a little bit. You can focus on your own content, but make sure you meet people and see what everybody else is doing as well and socialize with them, not just in person, but online too. It goes a long way and it can take you further than you ever thought. Another thing you don't want to ever do is hand over your mic. Sometimes you'll be doing an interview on the red carpet and people will try to grab your mic. Never release your mic. If you ever have watched Wendy Williams, in her segment Ask Wendy, she does like this, and if one of her co-hosts grabs the mic, she bring that sucker right back. I think even Oprah shared a story about never letting go of your mic. This is yours. You hold on to it. Don't let go of it. Don't do that. I'm mostly talking about red carpet interviews because when you're in a sit down situation, you either have two of these mics, so you don't have to worry about that, or you're using a Rode mic like what I'm using right now to be heard. Or you might be mic'd up with individual lavalier mics. So just wanted to say that as well, because sometimes people will grab your mic and don't let them do that. It's your mic. This is your interview. You're in control. Hollywood is small. You're gonna see these same people. If you don't get the interview that you want this time, there will be a next time. Don't worry about it. There was a time, I was so die-hard on getting an interview with Brandy because I was doing a Whitney Houston documentary. And I called her management over and over. I emailed, just nothing. I think I spoke to somebody one time, but I just wasn't getting any traction whatsoever. And then I just like kind of let it go because I'm like, obviously I'm not gonna get Brandy. All right, that's just not gonna happen. I go to a red carpet, didn't have anything to do with Brandy, okay? Not anything. It was somebody else's birthday party. Actually, it was Kim Whitley. She was having a masquerade party. As I was interviewing people, who do I see? Who do I see out the corner of this eye right here? Brandy Norwood. Now here I've been calling and asking and boom, a place I was never expecting her to be. There she was. And so I got my Studio Q interview with her there. So you just never know where people are going to be, if they're going to show up, because you can have all of these confirmed celebrities that are supposed to come and then they don't come. Or they come, but they don't walk the red carpet. Or they walk the red carpet, but they don't talk to you. All those are possibilities and happen often, but you can't give up. You have to be in it to win it. And I promise you, if you are, you will eventually get that interview. You will eventually have your mic in front of the star that you want to have it in front of. In the meantime, just get great content, build your profile, build your content up. Never, ever, ever would I have thought that I would be able to sit down with the people that I've been able to sit down with. You know, if I just sat on the sidelines, I would have been like, how do you get in contact with these people? Shows like Extra and Entertainment Tonight and like Inside Edition, different entertainment networks, they have full production staffs. And they have a whole booking department, and they're constantly invited to huge red carpets to cover it because they're on television. You know, they've been around for 10, 15 years. So yeah, they're going to constantly have that flow. So if you're working for Extra, yeah, you're gonna be at a million different events where you have complete access. It's name recognition and everything. But that's what makes what I've done so special, is that I haven't had all of that. It's just been myself and my best friend who's done all of this. So you don't need to be part of the establishment. We're living in a whole new world. We have people making millions of dollars off of Instagram, YouTube stars. You don't need anybody but your will, yourself, these tips, tools, and strategies that I'm giving you to go out and make it happen for yourself. If I had to depend on Hollywood connections, we wouldn't have one interview. We just wouldn't. But once I got the first taste of the red carpet with Whitney, I was like, sky's the limit. We just kept, pounding the pavement, reaching out. Then we started getting invitations to stuff. And sometimes we were the only camera crew there. And like I said, it's just me and Tam. We're out here in LA doing it. No connections or anything. So bloom wherever you're planted. I'm not saying you have to be in LA to do this. You don't. But you got to have the mindset that you can do it. And you can. You absolutely can. You can. You just have to have the desire and apply the things that I'm giving to you in this eCourse. And you can go out and not just do it, but be the go-to person for that. When they think of red carpets and interviews, they're going to think of you because you're out there doing it. And then soon as you come back, you're putting up your content. You're your own marketing agency. There's no more middle person between you and success anymore. I know when I was on my first red carpet, not as Studio Q, but as a journalist for the Atlanta Voice, all I had was a pad and a pen. And I was standing right next to Entertainment Tonight. Big camera, lights, everything. And all of these stars are coming down. And I literally have a pen and a paper. Regina King, now Oscar winner, stopped for me, even with my pen and pad of paper. She spoke to me as if I was Entertainment Tonight. She was engaged. She listened to my question, answered it, gave me a really great interview. But every star is not going to be Regina King. So you have to be prepared for them not to stop. But that doesn't mean that you don't still call out their name, ask a question out loud, and maybe they may give you a one-word answer, but at least it's a soundbite. Just because people pass you by, just because the publicist put you at the end of the carpet, you still get what you can get. You still make it work for you. You still try to get the most out of what you can at the time. When I interviewed Viola Davis, it was before the Tony, it was before the Oscar, it was before the Emmy, and her publicist still didn't want me to interview Viola Davis. She just looked at me, she looked at the mic, she really couldn't place Studio Q or whatever, and there was the carpet wasn't even crowded. There wasn't even a lot of people there to even interview Viola Davis. Usually you have a bunch of reporters where you're fighting for time. There wasn't even a bunch. She just really didn't want us to talk to her because we really wasn't a huge outlet, and she didn't know our brown faces and couldn't connect it to anywhere. So you have Viola Davis, who's an African American, who's black, who seems that she would always want to stop for us, but a white publicist who's basically trying to make her go the other way. It didn't seem like Viola Davis was really aware of what was going on. She was just kind of being led, but I clearly saw that the publicist did not want me to interview Viola Davis, and I just wasn't having it. Even though I was super nervous, I came there to interview Viola Davis. So that's exactly what I did. And I just put my microphone in front of Viola Davis and started talking. I didn't allow that awkward timing for her to kind of whisk her away. And that's what you have to do, because if you don't, you won't get an interview. But by you being assertive, I'm not saying to be aggressive, but by being assertive, yelling out their name, positioning your body, not allowing the publicist to just kind of X you out for no apparent reason. So still try, still call their name out, do what you can. That's just how it is, but you can still make the most of it. Having social media channels is the easiest and most effective way for people to see your interviews. There are so many ways to grow your audience by boosting a post. You really do need to invest in yourself and boost a post, like on Facebook. You can do it for as little as $5, but you need to get your stuff in front of other people, because if you have 10,000 people following your page, 5,000, doesn't matter. All those people are not getting to see your content unless you're paying for it because of the algorithms of Facebook. It's a business. So they're no longer just showing your stuff to everybody when there's so many people paying for advertisement. It's very cheap right now. The average person can afford it, but it also is effective in helping you get exposed, getting your stuff out to the world. Also share your content with bigger outlets on like Instagram. So if you have a great clip of something that you've done, or you've interviewed, a red carpet moment, a one-on-one interview clip, share it to The Shade Room, share it to Ebony, share it to XO Nicole, share it to all these major outlets, because they could possibly repost it for you, giving you way more exposure, giving you more likes, exposing your work to a brand new audience. So you have to really be a ninja when it comes to this social media. You have the opportunity to reach so many people with your work, and then some things can really pick up and possibly go viral if you just give it a little boost. So do Facebook ads, boost posts, promote your stuff on Instagram, but you must have an account on all these channels because it's important. They ask you, what's your social media channels? How many followers do you have? What's your website traffic? Because their job is to get press for their clients. When they say, we want you to cover the red carpet, and you actually cover it and they want a link to your coverage, they don't want just a YouTube video. They want you to write something in a little blog, put some pictures from the event and the actual interviews. So social media is extremely important when it comes to securing some interviews or being approached by big companies to do interviews, because they'll see that you have an audience. But don't be intimidated if you don't have an audience. Just use it to your advantage. When you're at these events, take pictures, put it in your Instagram stories, use the correct hashtag. And it's social media, so be social. Thank the celebrity for doing the interview on social media, on all of your channels. Social media is all about engagements, because even if you just make a meaningful comment on somebody else's post, they can like it, then go to your page and see who you are. So don't just be somebody who sets this stuff on social media and then leave. The whole point of social media is that it's social, so you have to be social. Put stuff in Instagram stories. Sometimes go live on Instagram when you're at an event so that people can get a vibe of what's going on, or go on Facebook Live and let them see behind the scenes of you getting ready before you do the interviews. If you have an extra person to hold it, because you're going to be, focused on the interview. But let people in and use social media to do that. Post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook, post it on Instagram. Make sure your YouTube channel always has fresh content on it that you are putting up when you go to these red carpets. Because when you go to a red carpet, you get lots and lots of interviews. So you can make a package and put them all in there together, or you can put them up individually, which gives you a bunch of content. At least post once a day, couple times a week of what you're doing. And I don't want you to think that any of this is really, really difficult. It's not. It's super easy. There's a bunch of free sites that you can sign up for, like blogger.com, and set you up an account just to put your interviews in a blog form on there. You can go to wix.com or squarespace.com. They have hundreds of templates for you to create a website. Very, very easy. Some are free or low cost. If you want your own website, just go to GoDaddy.com and enter in a name that you want to be your website and purchase it. So it's like only $14 for a year or two, and then you have your own domain. All of this stuff is at your fingertips, and you need to have it all set up. So once you do your interviews, you have a place for people to go. You need to showcase your work. People need to know what you've done, and they always want to know what you've done. So you need to have it in a place so that they can go and view it. Having a YouTube channel is very important, because at some point you can monetize it through Google AdSense. I think the criteria now is that you have to have at least 1,000 subscribers. It wasn't that way when I became a YouTube partner. It's a YouTube partner program, and other advertisers run ads in front of your videos, and you get a portion of that money. And if you hit $100, you get a check once a month. And there's a lot of rich YouTubers out here making thousands and thousands of dollars a month. Some of them are making millions. You could be one of those people. Grow your audience, put out fresh content. Try not to use anything that's copyrighted, like music. If you want to put like music up underneath your videos, make sure you pick free music from YouTube, so none of your stuff is flagged for content ID of somebody else's music, because it takes money out of your pocket. So a YouTube channel can be quite lucrative, especially if you're out there beating the pavement, getting content that people want to see. This could be your full day job. It's a lot of people's. So making that audience, monetizing the channel, it's the first step to just being your own media empire. It would be great to have a link of a media kit on your website. What is a media kit? It definitely tells everything about you, and it's like a highlight PDF that showcases who you've interviewed, your social media, just great things that you want the world to know about the content that you're producing. The final thing is an interview reel. An interview reel is just like a video resume. You should keep it to be like at least under 3 minutes. 1 minute is great, but 2 to 3 minutes if you got a lot of stuff. And you would want to include this reel to interviews that you're trying to get. So when you're reaching out to a publicist via email, make sure you attach your interview reel so they'll know who you've interviewed, what events you've covered, and you just put the best stuff in there so they'll know who you are before they even get an opportunity to say, yes, you can interview my client. And let me tell you, they will watch it. They will visit your blog. They will check your social media. So make sure you have all your ducks lined in a row. So I'm not saying you have to have tremendous numbers or anything, but just have a presence. Well, now I want to talk about production and all the equipment that you're going to need on the red carpet or in a one-on-one situation. We're going to talk about cameras, mics, lights, editing, and more.
This is a camera that I have. It's a Canon, really nice. Opens up, see that? So right now what I'm putting in is my zoom for the camera, the batteries, making sure we're good for all of this. This is 4 batteries for this on the inside. So what happens is I'm going to turn it on, make sure I take the cover off. You want them to actually see, or you want to be able to see what you're doing. So the camera is now on, and so what this does is, if you look inside the camera, you see that zoom, how it moves, and then I zoom out and I see this little boy right here. He's a cutie. So that's how that works. So I'm going to turn it off for now. And this right here is the Beach Tech, and this is what I'm going to use to put the microphones into. So I'm going to open it up, put the battery inside.
What is it called?
This is called a Beach Tech, and the mic inputs go inside of here. And it also allows me to put on headphones so I can actually listen to the audio to make sure if it's at the right level. So up, down, I turn it with all these knots and things like that. So there you have it. It's a great investment. You want to hear the different channels that it's on. So make sure that it's on. Green light, red light means of course it's not working. Green light means we're good. And this thing, I want to keep it on mono right here. Make sure that it's on with the mic. Each line, 2 different lines. This is for the first mic, and this is for a second mic if we had it. And make sure that it's on mic, on mono, and this goes to the XLR, and this goes to the AGC, and this is how you hear, and you control everything this way.
Why is it important to have that?
Well, it's great because, like I said, you know, you get to put your mics directly into it. I get to put on headphones, and I can actually hear the levels of the volume and not have to guess, you know, what it actually sounds like. I'm actually hearing it. So now I'm going to attach it to this crafty device. As you see, it goes behind. So I'm making sure that I'm tightening it up. This way. Gotta keep going until it gets tight. You see that? Okay. I like to turn it off to save power. You don't want the battery to die, so. All right. So now it's on. Okay. So now I'm gonna put, so I have this in. Now I'm gonna put, let's see. So that's the way that you do that. I have my memory card that's in it already. And this right here is just a scan disk. I have 64 gigabytes right here. All right, so that's inside as well. I'm giving exact. This is where the battery department is, but I have this on top so we can't see it right now. But the battery's inside here. I'm gonna show you what the battery actually looks like with my backup battery that you always gotta have. I always have a backup of everything. Backup batteries, backup memory sticks or memory drives, backup. I keep it with me. Keep the battery backup. So this is the actual Canon battery backup, and it goes right here in this section. So that's there, and it's all attached, and it looks nice. Make sure that it's tight. Okay, so after I do that, I'm gonna put my monopod on. And you can use a tripod or a monopod or anything like this. I like this because I'm able to just kind of grab it and go. But the tripod, it kind of stays in place, so it's really not flexible to move. around. But if you want to just hold it and move however you want to, this is a perfect thing to have. And just screw it inside. Just keep going until it attaches. And now it's on tight, so it's not going to go anywhere. See? Handy. Alrighty, so I'm going to put this down for a second. Next up, this is our handy ring light by DLC. So this attaches to this, and the batteries go inside of here. So then I attach it to this, and to test to make sure that it works. There you go. And you can actually adjust the light, low and high. It's on low right now, but watch the intensity. It's hard to kind of see it in the daytime, but it really works well at nighttime, and you can see.
I feel that it's very important to have great equipment. So here are my recommendations for some of the equipment that you can use. You need microphones, mic flags, and windscreens, as you can see that I have. You don't have to have that, but it's a good way to let everybody know who's doing the interview and brand yourself for all that you do. Final Cut Pro is what I use. Final Cut Pro 10, you can get it in the App Store for about $300, or you can use any kind of editing software. There's a lot of different kind of apps that you could research and use them. This is very easy, or you can use iMovie that comes with the Mac already installed, but you need something to edit with. Lights. I use the ring light, one that's mounted on the camera and one that I carry for one-on-one interviews, which is portable and big. It's a big ring light. You can see kind of a clip of that in the segment before this, of the small ring light. Different kind of apps that I use all the time are iMovie on my phone. So when I download clips to my phone, I can edit them within iMovie. Pick, Play, Post is a movie video editor app, and allows me to edit different clips, allows me to make different collages, having a picture on one side, a video on the other. It's very, very helpful. I use it very often to create content. And the Easy Watermark photo, they also have an Easy Watermark video app, which allows you to put your logo on the actual video or interview that you have. If you don't have a camera or a light or even microphone at this point, don't worry, you can get a smartphone video rig, and this will allow you to stabilize your footage when you're out on the red carpet or anywhere that you're recording. And it has a light on it, it has a microphone, and your camera is used through your phone. Your phone becomes your camera. So I have one of these, and I use that when I'm just on the fly or just doing different content. So if you don't have a camera and lights and all of that stuff, don't be discouraged. Get you a smartphone video rig and record on your phone until you can upgrade. Use what you have, bloom where you're planted, and when you get more and get better stuff, then you can upgrade. But until then, this is a perfect alternative.